What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. It's been brought to my attention that the Brexit Party MEP Rupert Lowe has sent a letter to the chairman of the EU's Constitutional Affairs Committee relating to the Supreme Court decision against Boris Johnson earlier this week, which ruled that Boris Johnson's prorogation of Parliament was unlawful and the trouble that could cause relating to Theresa May's use of prerogative powers when she extended Article 50, now that the Supreme Court has set this precedent. So let's check out what he had to say in his letter. Right, so you can see Rupert Lowe, European Parliament, to Antonio Tajini. Dear Chairman, I mentioned yesterday in the AFCO committee a possible unintended consequence of the Supreme Court ruling earlier this week on the power to prorogue Parliament. The judgment has already had retrospective effect on at least one statute and may have further retrospective consequences, particularly for the EU budget. As you may know, the royal prerogative includes not just the power to prorogue, but also the power to negotiate and enter into treaties and to make decisions in the EU Council. There is no reason to distinguish between these executive functions because the Supreme Court has ruled that it is the effect of exercising the power that is relevant. Specifically, a decision to prorogue or advise the monarch to prorogue will be unlawful if the prorogation has the effect of frustrating or preventing without reasonable justification the ability of Parliament to carry out its constitutional functions as a legislator and as the body responsible for the supervision of the executive. You will recall, on 11th of April, Theresa May used a prerogative to agree an extension to the Article 50 process. By doing so, she prevented Parliament for a further 6 months from not only legislating on a whole range of matters covered by the EU treaties, but also from holding to account the real executive, the EU Commission. The Supreme Court decision has surprised many lawyers in the UK, not least the Master of the Rolls, the Lord Chief Justice, the President of the Queen's Bench Division, and the Attorney General. It therefore raises more questions than it answers. For example, did Theresa May's use of the royal prerogative on the 11th of April to neuter Parliament mean the agreement to extend was unlawful and therefore void? Would that mean the UK left the EU on April 12th? We should also bear in mind that the Supreme Court ruled that the prorogation was null and void and that, as a consequence, all that flowed from it had to be reversed. For example, the Parliamentary Buildings, Restoration and Renewal Act, which gained royal assent automatically as a result of prorogation, has been retrospectively repealed. But in the case of Theresa May's extension, if it was unlawful, the statutory instrument that changed the definition of exit day to the 31st of October could be extinguished. And if it was, does that mean the EU should repay the $1 billion a month UK taxpayers have been paying towards the EU ever since? The Supreme Court has demonstrated that its judgments can have retrospective effect. This is thus the danger that a future Supreme Court, comprised of judges who are just as impartial as the current ones, could rule that the EU owes the UK a significant sum of money. Which leads to my question, what contingencies are being made for that? Can we ask the European Parliament's legal service to look into this and perhaps give us some feedback? Yours sincerely, Rupert Lowe. Well, as you all know, I am no lawyer, but from my limited knowledge, I think Rupert Lowe has made a very good point in this letter. The Supreme Court has now decided it can rule on the use of prerogative powers and the effects that exercising them has. He even quotes Lady Hale, who said a decision to prorogue or advise the monarch to prorogue will be unlawful if the prorogation has the effect of frustrating or preventing without reasonable justification the ability of Parliament to carry out its constitutional functions as a legislator and as the body responsible for the supervision of the executive. That there does not just relate to prorogation, it can now be used for any prerogative power, providing it has an effect on Parliament and someone takes it to the Supreme Court. Because you have to remember, Rupert points out in his letter, something Theresa May did on the 11th of April 2019 to agree to an extension to the Article 50 process, which in his words prevented Parliament from legislating for over 6 months. If we use the Supreme Court's own logic, then that use of the executive power is unlawful and therefore should be null and void, much like the prorogation was deemed. meaning the EU should be paying us back our £1 billion a month since April, and it could also mean that we left in April. So Robin Tilbrook, it seems, might be right in what he has put forward in his cases against the extension. Our Supreme Court has been able to take action retrospectively, as Rupert said in his letter, so Juncker, Verhofstadt and the rest of you EU arseholes, we want our 5 or 6 billion back, along with getting us out of the EU if someone can go to the Supreme Court and prove that Maybot acted unlawfully when she extended Article 50 using executive powers. Let's hope they can. Well, I'm going to end the video there, guys. I want to thank the channel's PayPal, Patreon and Subscribe Star members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
This Parliament is a dead Parliament. It should no longer sit. It has no moral right to sit on these green benches. They don't like the truth. Twice they have been asked to let the electorate decide upon whether they should continue to sit in their seats, while they block 17.4 million people's votes. This Parliament is a disgrace, but they're too cowardly to give it away. But the time is coming. The time is coming, Mr. Speaker, when even these turkeys won't be able to prevent Christmas.